Hi all, I'm Chris and welcome to this two-player run-through of the game Dragonrealm, published by Gamewright Games. In Dragonrealm, we're told to pack our lucky socks and get ready for an adventure exploring the Dragonrealm. Sneak into the witch's cabin, search the ogre's treehouse, or storm the dragon's lair. Add adventurers to different locations in the hope of getting the most treasure, but watch out for goblins who might get there first and grab the treasure before you. In the end, the player with the most treasure wins. Okay, so let's get to the table. Here we have a game set up for a two-player game. We have the Adventurers Academy. This is a two-sided location. We also have the Adventurers Alley. In your first few games, when you're just learning, they do advise to play with the Academy, so we'll set that up with that now. But we'll do a brief little overview of the Alley's options at the end of the tutorial. We'll just leave that there. We've built our location deck. We've alternated from level 1, 2 and 3 locations, with the final location being the Dragon's Keep itself. The end of the game will trigger once we've cleared the Dragon's Keep. As part of setup in a two-player game, you will need to return the Halfling Hideout, which is a level 3 card, and the Crystal Mountain, which is a level 2 card. All players will be given a turn summary card. This just breaks down all the elements of the game, as well as has a nice handy explanation of the 3 explore actions that we're going to be using to beat each location in the game. As part of setup, both players were dealt 3 enhancement cards. Now of those cards, they had the option to either choose 1 level 2 or 2 level 1s. So player 1 has chosen a level 2 card, the Golden Chalice. That's going to give them 5 gold coins at the end of the game. Whereas player 2 has opted for the 2 level 1 cards, the Dwarfen Hammer, which is going to give a +1 to all his storm rolls, and we'll go into the 3 different kinds of rolls shortly, and $1 towards the end of the game. Whereas the Fireball spell gives a +4 to any search of the 3, but it's a one-time use only, and then will be discarded from the game. Both players have collected their 8 adventure meeples in their chosen colours for this run through. Player 1 is going to be the orange player, player 2 the blue player. We've set the 6 goblin meeples just off to the side. The goblins are going to contest with the players for control of all the locations, and you'll have goblin cards come out of this deck during the course of the game, and we'll go through that in a bit more detail during the playthrough. Also, a part of the supply, we have our treasure tokens. These come in denominations of 1, 5 and 10. So they are our victory points towards the end of the game. The player with the most treasure wins. We have our pool of custom dice. We've got our 6 dice here. Each dice goes up to 4. And we have a single 4 side, a single 1 side, and 2 of 3 and 2s. How the game's going to operate, we're going to be changing cards into dice and then rolling to see if we can equal or better these numbers on each location. Lastly, we shuffled the adventurer deck, the red back deck. We dealt 2 cards face up, and then we dealt 5 starting cards to each player. If during setup you would deal either a goblin card or a rock slide, which is the 2 hazards of the game, just place them back in the deck and re-deal a replacement card to each player. Alright, so a brief summation of the game. On your turn, players have the choice of 2 options. Option 1 is to rest. When a player rests, they can draw 2 cards, either from this face-up pile or the face-down deck. If you do draw from the face-up pile, you will replenish a card straight away. Each player has a hand size limit of 9 cards. Our second option is to explore a location, and this is the key element of the game. When you explore a location, you're going to be playing cards in one of 3 ways. What players are trying to do is get one of 3 options. They want to get a sneak. Now what a sneak is consecutively runs of numbers, and that's represented by this first symbol on the location card. A search or numbers of the same type, or a storm, which is cards of the same colour. Now these numbers on each location denote to one of those three actions. So if we look at the Troll Tavern as an example, if we wanted to storm that castle, which is the crossed swords, we would have to play cards of the same colour. If we could play a certain amount of cards of the same colour, we could then transfer that to dice of an equal number. So say we had 3 blue. We could play 3 blue to get the 3 dice. Then it would be a case of rolling those dice and trying to get a number equal to or higher than the number printed on the location, in this case 7. If we were successful in getting a 7, we would be able to place one of our adventurers on that location. And you'll see each location has a different amount of spots for adventurers. The Troll Tavern has 3, the Sorcerer's Castle has 5, and the Den of Wolves has 4. Once all positions are filled on a location, the person who has the majority wins that location. This little shield icon to the bottom left tells us the player who scored majority will get 5 gold coins, whereas the player who contributed to it and came second will get 4. If we also look underneath the shield, we can see these dragon runes. Now this is a set collection element of the game. Every location you have contributes towards this dragon rune. Whoever has the most dragon runes at the end of the game will score 5 additional gold coins towards their total tally. Just one other thing to point out too is you will see on certain cards around one of the actions, as we can see in the Troll Tavern, the search action has a gold ring around it. If you are successful in completing a search action on the Troll Tavern, you are then allowed to place 2 adventurers to that location. Now during the course of the game, as we will see, goblins will come out of the deck, and goblins also contest these locations. Okay, so let's return everything back to stock and prepare to play the game. Just 2 further amendments to the scoring element of that tile. If a player has captured all positions on that location, they will get the total of both amounts figured there. Whereas if it is a tie for the location, both first and second place are added together and the reward will be divided equally amongst both players. Okay, so we're ready to begin. Player 1 will start the game. If we look at their hand, they haven't really got anything yet in the way of actions that they can use to explore. They don't have 3 of a kind, the most they've got is 2 twos. They haven't got any sequential run of numbers, and they haven't got any run of set colours. So they're going to decide to rest. Part of their rest action, they'll take the blue 1, which gives them 2 blue cards and 1. Matching to their green, we replenish. And we might take the red 1 as well. That way we have 3 1s. And we replenish again. So that's player 1's turn. They're now gearing towards possibly getting a run of same number, which is a search action. Player 2. Player 2 started off with a much better hand. They've already got 3 cards of the same colour. They're going to rest as well and just strengthen the hand. As we said earlier, you do have a hand limit of 9 cards. So we've got room to build up our cards. They're going to take the green 6 and add to their green tally. Gets replenished. Neither of those cards are really going to benefit them. They could take the purple 12 and go towards a set of number 12 cards, but they'll take their chances and draw blindly for their second card. And we've got a rock slide. So what we do, we trigger this immediately, and then we're going to draw a replacement card. So what the rock slide tells us is all players pass 1 adventurer card to their right. In the case of 2 players, we're just exchanging 1 card each. So we'll put that in the discard, and both parties have to choose 1 card to give away. So at this point, the 1 and the 12 isn't very important to player 2, so they're going to decide to give player 1 the red 12. Player 1 looks at their hand. They're going to keep their 1s. They've got a set of 2s, so it's really out of 5 or 12. There is another yellow out there at the moment, and there is a 12. So what they might do is they'll get rid of their red 5 to player 2. Okay, player 2's got the red 5 now, and they need to draw a replacement for the rock slide. And they get the 4. So that's not too bad. They now have a set of 2 4s, but they, more importantly, have a sequential run. They could go 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that's a 4-card run, and as we said, runs of consecutive numbers is a sneak ability, or the first ability on those locations. That's the end of player 2's turn. Back to player 1. Now, player 1 still only has 7 cards in hand, so they could rest again, or they could attempt to just play their 3 1s for a search ability. Now, the 2 search abilities on the Den of Wolves and the Sorcerer's Castle are both 5 to beat, whereas the Troll Tavern is a 10. So, to start things off, I think player 1 will attempt to change their 3 1s into 3 dice, and they're going to nominate to attempt the Den of Wolves. Now they need to roll with those 3 dice, 5 or higher with their roll to actually search. So there we go. So we got 9. So they successfully got that. Their 3 cards are discarded. They draw a replacement card. It's a goblin card. We act this straight away. Now each goblin card will have either a left, right or center at the bottom of the card. This is telling us it's the right. So what we do, we place a goblin at the right hand location. Draw a replacement card for player 1. Now player 1 gets to add one of their adventurers to the Den of Wolves because they were successful with that search action. Just an interesting thing to note on the Den of Wolves though, down the bottom, it didn't apply to this roll, but something we do need to be aware of. Any 4s that are rolled become 3s, so that makes beating the Den of Wolves possibly a little bit harder. But didn't really affect us that turn. Player 1 is done. Now, just a quick little explanation as to what would happen if player 1 had been unsuccessful in that search. Their cards would go back to their hand, and they would add their adventurer not to the location but to the academy itself. Now, any adventurers on the academy at the end of the game are going to count towards one of the dragon rune stones. But what you can do as a player is, prior to rolling the dice, if you do have an adventurer on the academy, you can take it to add a +1 to your total roll tally. That didn't affect player 1 that turn, but if they had been unsuccessful, that would have been the case. Player 2. Now player 2 again does have consecutive numbers of 4, and they also have 4 green. So their 2 strongest actions they could go for is a sneak action or consecutive numbers, or they could do a storm action of 4. Now if we look on the board, storm action of 6 or 11 for the sneak. These, it could go either way for him. It's even on both the other 2 locations, so 7 apiece. Now player 2's just got to decide whether he would like to commit the 4 cards to one of those actions. And I think he will. He'll quickly take advantage of this because there is already 1 goblin on the Troll Cavern. So what he will do, now just because he has sets of 4, he doesn't have to play those 4 cards. If he thinks he can manage the number required by playing less cards, he can keep cards in hand. So player 2 is actually going to commit a 4, 5 and 6. He's going to keep his 3 green. He's going to commit this 4, 5 and 6. So he's going to do a sneak attack. He's on the Troll Tavern. So he needs to roll with 3 die, 7 or higher. Now, we need to also keep in mind, at any time he can spend his Fireball spell to add 4, but he will need to nominate prior to the roll. Whereas his Dwarven Hammer, whenever he does a Storm, or the Cross Swords, which is cards of the same colour, he automatically gets a +1. But this is unaffected, he just needs 7 or higher. And he gets an 8. So, successful. He places an adventure on the card, discards his 3 cards to the discard pile, and he'll draw a replacement card. He's very happy with that. He gets another green. So that's the end of player 2's turn. Back to player 1. Now player 1 needs to rebuild, so he will take a rest action. He will take the yellow to try and get more yellow cards in his hand. And fortuitous for him, the next one drawn is a yellow. He'll take that as his second card. That's the end of player 1's turn. Player 2. We just need to replenish. There we go. Now, player 2's in a fairly strong spot in that he has 4 green cards. So he can do another storm action if he likes. And I think he'll do just that. He'd love to draw First Blood and claim the Troll Tavern. He's not going to risk not getting this amount, because if he played 3 cards only, he could get a 6. He's going to need basically a 7. He doesn't want to risk it. He'll play all 4 cards, take a 4th die. Now he needs to roll a 7 or higher, and he gets a 9. So he gets it easy, which adds his final adventurer. His 4 cards are returned to the discard. He draws a replacement card, so he now has 2 1s. Now he claims this. He has majority over the goblins, 2 to 1. Goblins are returned to the pile. His adventurers are returned to him, and he gets 5 gold coin for having majority. If the second player had been there instead of the goblin, they would have got the 4. Whereas if he'd had total dominance, he would have got 9. But in this case, he gets the 5 gold coins, and he gets the location and 4 dragon runes towards his tally. And we replace the location with the next from the deck. And now we've got the Ogre's Treehouse. So the Ogre's Treehouse has 6 possible locations for our adventurers. It has a Storm of 7, it has a Search of 9, and it has a Sneak of 6. 12 to the winner who gets the most of the majority, 4 to any second place, and has 1 dragon rune. So that's the end of player 2's turn. Back to player 1. Player 1 has got their 4 yellow cards. So they can do a storm action if they so want. They look at the locations. We've got a 6, a 7 and a 7. They've already got 1 adventurer on the Den of Wolves, so they think they'll try and enforce their position on that card. They'll play their 4 to get 4 die. We are going for a storm action, or 4 cards of the same colour. We need 6 or higher. Just keeping in mind the little amendment to this location in that 4s are going to turn into 3s. So here we go. We need a 6. Okay, no 4s, and we got more than enough. We got 10 points. Again, player 1 was successful. His cards go to the discard. Places an adventurer at the location, and he's going to draw back up 1 card, and he gets a 3. End of player 1's turn. Player 2 needs to now rebuild his hand. There's nothing he can do with these 2, so He's kind of forced that he's going to have to rest. He sees a purple there, he'll take a purple to go with his already one in his hand, draws a replacement. Neither of those cards are going to offer him much unless he started to take sequential numbers and took the 11, but he'll just draw blind and luckily enough gets another purple. End of player 2's turn. Player 1. Now player 1 hasn't got a very strong hand either, so he'll decide to rest as well. Neither of the face-up cards offer much to him, so he'll draw blind, draws 1, gets a red, draws 2, and gets a purple. So that's good. He now has a run of 3 purple. He has 2 2s and also 2 3s, so he'll be keeping a lookout for more of those numbers as well, so he can get possibly a search action going. That's the end of player 1's turn. Player 2. Again, he could launch with the 3 of the same colour and do a storm. So we've got 7, 7 and a 6. He's a bit concerned at how fast player 2 is going through this den of wolves. He wants to have at least part of this action. So just in case player 1 manages to get a very strong hand for a sneak and possibly put 2 adventurers out, he'll play his 3 purple to do a storm. He needs a 6. So he'll play those 3 cards, take 3 dice, and he needs a 6. Again, 4s are going to turn into 3s. Now, before we roll, just a case in point, his Dwarven Hammer is going to give him a +1, and that's an ongoing ability. So the good thing with this is that 6 is going to become a 5. Okay, 4s become 3s. We've got 2 4s, they both become 3s. Doesn't really matter. He gets the 9, more than enough, so he gets to place one of his adventurers on that card. His cards are discarded, and he's going to draw a replacement card from the deck. Red 6. That's the end of their turn. Back to player 1. Now, player 1 has seen that player 2 has now made a play at the Den of Wolves. There's only one spot left. If player 2 manages to get another adventurer on there, they will have to split the winnings. So we've got 8 and 4, so 12, which would be 6 points each. They don't want that. They would love to have the majority and get the 8 points. So they're not going to muck around. They're going to play their 3 purple cards. Now, that's a storm. They need a 6. Play their 3 cards, and they've got their 3 die. They need 6 or better on this roll. Okay, no 4s. We get a 7. So they successfully get that location. Go and discard their cards to the deck. They're going to draw their replacement card. So that puts them in handy. They now have 3 red. Now, they've won that location. 3 adventurers back to their tally. 1 adventurer back to blue. Now, that's now going to be 8 points towards player 1. 4 points to player 2, who did contribute to the search. And player 1 now starts with 3 dragon runes, as opposed to player 2 that has 4. But they've captured that card. Okay, now we replace the location. And we've revealed, basically we're down to the Dragonrealm. It's going to be the last card that comes out. And as I said, once the Dragonrealm is defeated, that triggers the end of the game. That's the end of player 1's turn. It's back to player 2. Player 2 is going to be in the rebuilding phase. They're going to take the red 8. They're going to rest, take the 8. Goblin card comes out. So, card to the left this time. That goes in the thing. And one place of the new card comes out. We draw a replacement card. It's replenished. He'll draw from the top and get another 8. So 2 8s, not too bad. So, player 2's turn done. Unfortunately, the Bear Basin that just came out has already secured 1 goblin. There's only 3 spots on there, so If we look at the symbols down the bottom, the storm action, or the same color action, we need a 3. The search action, which is the preferred action for that card, is numbers of the same type, and that would get us 2 adventurers on there. And then finally the sneak action, which is sequential numbers. Back to player 1. Player 1 sees that there's 2 cards out there of the blue. He's going to take the blue 11, he's going to rest and draw 1 card. Second card comes out. That yellow 4 doesn't do anything for him, so he's going to take the blue 7. And a goblin card comes out, another card to the left. Okay, that gets replenished. Now unfortunately, as we can see, goblins have now got majority on this spot, so there's only 1 place left. That card's not going to be able to get won by either player, so they may want to focus more now on the Sorcerer's Castle and the Ogre's Treehouse. But that's the end of player 1's turn. They've now got 3 of each colour, and they're setting themselves up for a nice storm explorer on one of these locations. Player 2. Now player 2 hasn't got a very strong hand at the moment, so they are going to rest. They like the fact that there is an 8 out there. That gives them 3 8s. They're going to take the blue 8 and replenish. Now they could pick up the 10, which would give them 2 blue cards. The yellow 4. There's no sequential run of numbers as yet, so they'll take a chance and they'll draw blind for their second card, and they get a 7. Okay. Player 1. Now player 1's set up at the moment for doing a storm action. They've got 3 of both. Now if they look at the cards at the moment, well, as we said, a storm 3 on the Bear's Basin would at best only get them $2. They could claim the $2, but the goblins have got majority on that. Otherwise, the Sorcerer's Castle has a 7, and Ogre's Treehouse has a 7 as well. Now both of these have a fair number of spots for adventurers, 6 and 5. Player 1 would like to get a look at that Dragonrealm and just see what points it has. So look, any points are better than none. He might try and wrangle the 2 points from the Bear Basin. Only needs a 3 to do it. He sees there's a blue card out there. In the hope that player 2 won't pick up that blue card, he'll commit this turn to explore, and he'll just play 2 red cards. Has 2 dice, needs to get a 3 or higher, and gets a 5. 2 cards are discarded. We're going to draw a replacement card. I'll get yellow 7. This location is solved. He returns his adventurer. Goblins go back to the pool. Now, that's won by the goblins. They had majority, but player 1 did manage to contribute, so we'll get the second place of $2. We'll just put that out of the way, and $2 goes to their pool. We're going to reveal the Dragonrealm. And there we go. So 11 victory points if you could get majority on that. 6 for a second place. We have a sneak of 8, a search of 6, and a 12 for a storm. So that is the preferred method to go after that. The Dragon's Lair is a storm. Now, we have a little note down here that no goblins or enhancements can be used to get that. So player 2's Dwarven Hammer can't contribute towards the storm as much as he'd like it to, because it is the preferred method. And as you read there, no goblins. So if a goblin was to say that they needed to go to the left-hand location, goblins will never go to a dragon's location. Alright, player 2's turn. Player 2's turn. They're looking not too bad with their hand. They've got the 3 8s. So that is setting them up for a search action. And they'll make a play at this at the moment. They like that. They want to get on board, get some points. So they'll play their 3-8 cards, do a search action of the Ogre's Treehouse. Now, it indicates on there that that is the preferred method of searching. Play the 3 dice. Now they need 9 or higher. Again, one thing we didn't note at first when this came out is the treehouse does have the same conditions as the Dragon's Lair in that no enhancements can be played. So player 2 couldn't use either of these, and basically the fireball spell is going to be restricted to use in the Sorcerer's Castle with his Dwarven Hammer. So back to the case in point, he's got 3 die to get 9 or higher. And he scrapes by and gets a 10. Now, because it was the preferred method of search, he gets 2 adventurers onto that location. He discards his 3 cards and draws a replacement. And it's a goblin, the middle. So, we put that there, and the goblin's going to come out to the middle location. Draws a replacement, gets an 11. Player 1. Player 1 is going to strengthen their hand. They see there's a blue out there, as they hoped there would be. Player 2 didn't take that card. So they're going to rest. They're going to take 2 cards, one being that blue. And they'll draw blindly. The 2 yellow aren't going to help them much. They get another yellow anyhow. So that's the end of player 1's turn. Player 2, not much available to them at this point in time, though when they look out here they are going to rest. They've got a 4 and a 5, so not only will that count towards same coloured cards, but they got a 4, 5, a 6 and a 7, so they get a sequential run or a sneak run. So they'll take these 2 cards, replenish, and take the second one and replenish. That's the end of player 2's turn. Player 1. Now, they're fairly strong. They've got their 4 cards for their storm attack. Now, the dragon is a 12 with 4 die. I don't know if they're that confident to do that at this point, whereas the Ogre's Treehouse is a 7. It would be nice to go after the Dragon's Lair. There's still quite a few spots left on the Ogre's Treehouse, so they're not too concerned about that yet. So they only have 7 cards in their hand. They can afford to possibly rest and explore, which I think they'll do, and try and get some more blue cards. So they will rest, draw 2, 1 and 2. And that was nice. That drew them an additional blue. They now have 5 cards to go towards a sneak and possibly attempt that 12. Next turn. So that's the end of their turn now. Okay, back to player 2. So player 2 has realised that this fireball spell is only going to be good for the Sorcerer's Castle. It's no point having it at the end of the game. It's going to be worth nothing to them. So they will make a play at the Sorcerer's Castle. It's worth 4 to any search. What they may do, they'll keep their yellows. Though, as we said, they've got that nice run of numbers, haven't they? Okay, player 2 will put everything on hold just for one more turn. Nothing's too dire at this point, so they will rest. They'll grab that other 11, which will go with their purple 11. So they'll draw rest, replenish, and they get to draw a second card. And nothing of those 2 matters to them, so they'll draw blind. And they get a rock slide, so all players pass 2 cards to the other player. So this could affect things. So if we look at this, we'll draw our replacement card. But we'll probably have to action the rock slide prior to the activation of that card. So we'll put that away, and they've got to choose 2 cards from what they initially had in their hand. Well, they're not going to give up their run. They've got the 4, 5, 6 and 7. That's their strongest run. Needs to give up 2 cards. These 2 are looking fairly good, but that does give player 1 a run of 2. He won't risk it, and he'll give player 1 the yellow 1 and the green 2. Meanwhile, definitely not going to touch any of his blue cards. He needs to give player 2 of his own cards. He'll hang on to these, and he'll give player 2 the red and the green. Okay, so at the end of that turn, once cards are exchanged, player 2's cards are looking like so. Not too bad. He's still got a pair of 12s that he could possibly go use on the Sorcerer's Castle. So that's the end of player 2's turn. Player 1. Player 1's going to make a play at that Dragon's Lair. He's going to play his 5 blue cards. So he's going to do a storm. He's going to require 12 or higher. Plays the 5 and collects 5 die. 12 or higher. He gets 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So he falls short. His cards go back to his hand, and one of his adventurers goes to the Adventurers Academy. So he can keep him there for the end of the game and claim a runestone, or possibly add that 1 to a roll. Now that wouldn't fall into the enhancements, as these purple are the enhancements. That's the end of player 1's turn. Okay, player 2. Player 2's taken that time to take a bit of a break and rest. So now he's going to take the benefits of that. He's going to play his 2 12s. So do a search action. He's going to do a search action on the Sorcerer's Castle. He only needs a 5. It's a bit of overkill, but he knows he can't use his Fireball spell on either of the other 2 locations, so he may as well just give that up as well. He'll play his 2 for 2 dice. He'll commit his Fireball, which gives him a +4, which seals the deal. He knows he has to get it. He's got it. That gets discarded back to the box, and he adds 2 cards to the discard pile, and he's going to draw a replacement card. Now it'd be great if he could get an 8, he could get a sequential run and have the whole 6 cards, so that would be fantastic, but we'll wait and see. That's the end of player 2's turn. Now player 1, there's nothing stopping them from committing to that attempt again, and they will. They'll commit the 5 cards again to try and do a storm action on the Dragon's Lair. But what they're also going to do this one time, they'll commit the 5 cards for the 5 dice, but they also will remove their adventurer to add +1 to any roll. So this time they're only going to need 11. So we've got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They were successful in this attempt. They add 2 adventurers to the Dragon's Lair, as it is its preferred method. They're going to discard their cards to the discard and draw a replacement card. So that was a good turn for player 1. Back to player 2. Okay, as we said, player 2 would love to pick up that number 8 card. So what he'll do, he'll keep chipping away at the Sorcerer's Castle. He'll play 2 cards, so he'll give up his 9 and an 11 for 2 dice. And he's going to do a storm attack. Now his Dwarfen Hammer is going to add a +1 to this. He needs a 7. So he really only needs 6. So he needs 6 off these 2 dice. It's a bit of a long shot. He only gets 3. So these 2 cards stay in his hand. An adventurer goes to the academy, and that's the end of his turn. Player 1. Now, player 1's probably got a little bit of time. He's in a good position on the Dragon's Lair so far. Sorcerer's Castle, early days yet, and the Ogre's Treehouse, still quite a few positions left there as well. So he will rest. If he takes the 9, which he will do, that gives him 9, 10 and 11. He'll replenish. Similar to player 2, he's chasing that elusive 8, and he'll do a blind draw. Gets goblins to the right. Replaces that card, and he gets another 9. But at least now he does have 4 yellow. Player 2. Player 2's going to rest as well. See if they can build up their hand. They only have 7 cards, so they've got room to get up to their 9 card limit. So they'll rest, they'll draw blind. They get another 9. They really need an 8 or a 3. Draw again. And they get a 3. So that was nice. That now gives them a sequential run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So that's the best roll they can possibly do towards a sneak. Now we've got an 8 on the dragon. So that was a good draw. I was happy with that. Back to player 1. Alright, player 1's got a pair of 9s. He's got a sequential run of a 9, 10 and 11. 2 number 9s. Neither of those cards offer much to him. So what he might do a storm, or the same colour. And he may do this storm on the Sorcerer's Castle. Now the Sorcerer's Castle, the storm, he's going to need a 7. So he'll play all 4 cards. Get 4 die. And he's going to need a 7 or higher. Gets it easy. So adds his adventurer to that. His 4 cards to the discard. And he's going to draw a replacement card. Back to player 2. Now player 2 has a full hand now. He's got his maximum 9. Now that doesn't mean he can't rest. It just means he would have to discard down to draw from the draw pile. But if he looks at what he has here, as we said, we have a nice sequential run. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So he can do a sneak. The dragon needs a sneak of 8. He'll commit to the dragon because he's a bit concerned player 1 already has 2 adventurers there. So he'll use his full 6 cards to get the 6 dice. He needs an 8 on this. And gets it easy. $17. Absolutely smashed it. Adds 1 to the dragons. His sequential cards go in the discard. And he draws a replacement. Gets a 5. Player 1. Alright, all the locations are pretty much even pecking at the moment. He hasn't made a play at the Ogre's Treehouse yet, and there's only 3 spots left available to him. That's not too bad. It's not urgent at this point in time. Now he can go one of 2 ways. He has a sequential run of 3, so that could be a sneak, or he has 3 of the same colour, which is a storm. It'd be great to get the same number. So he's got 2 11s there. Because if you could get 9 or higher, that would give him an instant 2 players on that and even things up. So nothing's too urgent at this, so he will rest and he'll draw blind. He gets a 9. He could take the green 7, but he'll chance it. And he gets an 8. So now he has 4 numbers for a sneak. So that puts him in pretty good stead to go after the Dragon's Lair again. Player 2. Player 2's on the rebuild. He's got a pair of 9s and he's got 2 purples. Not enough to do much. He's going to rest and draw 2 cards. He gets a 7 and he gets a 5. So he's now got 2 blues, 2 5s and a 7. Player 1. Might try the sneak. He's got an 8, 9, 10 and 11. He only needs an 8. So he'll hang on to his reds because he wants to build up another storm, which is the strongest if this doesn't work. So he'll hang on to his reds, put those to the side. He'll play these 4 cards. 4 numbers in a row. He's going to go with sneak. The sneak for the dragon is an 8. So he's going to play those for 4 die. Needs an 8. And gets it easy. So 8 just off 2 dice there. 12, 15. Adds another adventurer. We discard the 4 cards. It's going to draw a replacement. And that's the end of their turn. So in a really good spot on the Dragon's Lair. Best that player 2 can hope for is a 2nd place. Player 2. Now player 2 knows player 1's got the Dragon's Lair pretty much wrapped up. If he seals this location, he's going to score 11 points. He's going to get another 2 icons. And the moment that happens, regardless of what happens with these locations, we're still going to score them. So at this point, he's still fairly strong on his Ogre's Treehouse. No one has majority on the Sorcerer's Castle. So that's the one he needs to tip in case player 1 decides to end the game and capture the Dragon's Lair. So looking at his cards, he could. He has 2 5s. He has 2 blues. He'll take a chance. He'll take the gamble. Though he does have a 1 there. And if he does a storm, he has a +1 with his hammer as well. So I think he'll do that. Storm or cards of the same colour. He'll play his 2 purple. He's going to play his 2 purple. He's going to claim back his adventurer to add a +1 to this roll. So if he's doing a storm, he needs to roll a 7. Because he's taken back his adventurer, it becomes a 6 and he gets a +1 to all his storm. So he only needs a 5. He's got 2 dice to get it. He gets the 5 on the dollar. So he adds his adventurer to that spot. Now has majority. If the game ends now on this next turn, at least he's got the Sorcerer's Castle. 2 cards back to the discard. Draws a replacement card. That's a goblin for the middle. So there we go. We'll draw another replacement card for the goblin. Gets a 3. Now, okay, so the Sorcerer's Castle ended up in a draw. We've got 2 goblins and 2 of player 2's adventurers. So we need to add this amount up. It comes to 13. We round down. So that's going to be 6 coins to player 2. Just take one of that and we'll take one of the 5s. Now, player 1, because they did contribute, they do get something for contributing. They're going to get $1 coin. We return the goblins to the supply. Blue adventurers back. And that card gets removed, so no one's going to be claiming the runes on that card. We're down to the final 2 locations. And that's the end of player 2's turn. Back to player 1. Can't do anything with what they've got now, so they will rest. Draw. So we get an 8. We might take the green 7 as our second card. So that comes out. Okay, so now they've got 7, 8 and 9, they got the sequential numbers where they could possibly try a sneak pretty soon. We're going to just give this deck a shuffle. Now it's run out. And it's back to player 2. Okay, so player 2 is going to rest as well. He's going to take the blue 4. And because this favours a search, so he could put 2 adventurers on there if he was successful. Search again, same number. He likes that purple 4, he'll take that purple 4. Player 1. Okay, so we've got the 7, 8 and the 9. We've got the 10 out there as well. So that's going to be a give me. We're going to rest and take the 10. And there's the 6. So we'll take the 6 as well. Oh, goblins to the middle. If there's only 2 locations, which there are, the non-dragon location. As we said, goblins won't go to a dragon location. So another goblin goes to the treehouse. It's even control at the moment of the treehouse between player 2 and the goblins. That's the end of player 1's turn. Back to player 2. Now, player 2 could grab that additional 5. They're only at a hand of 7, so resting isn't going to hurt them that much this turn. They will take the extra 5. That gives them 3 5s. We'll just draw blind on the second draw. Goblins to the right. Okay, so draw again, and we get a 1. But goblins to the right. Goblins now have majority in the tree house. That's the end of player 2's turn. Player 1. So player 1 is looking very good with sequential numbers. They've got a 6, 7 and, well actually, they've got a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10. So they've got the best sequential run they can get of the 6 dice. Now that is a sneak. For the sneak for the Dragon's Lair is an 8. For the treehouse it is a 6. So player 1's got to weigh up what they want to do. At this point in time, if they closed out the game and committed to the Dragon's Lair, they have majority. They would get the 11 points and the location, so 2 dragons runestones. If they decided to go for the treehouse instead, they would contribute to that, but they would only have 1 person, so they would not win anything there. Instead, they would be basically awarding 4 points to player 2, who got the second spot. So they're going to close out the game. They're going to go for the Dragon's Lair. As the game comes to an end, they can commit fully to this. So they're going to commit all 6 cards, the 6 dice, and all they need is an 8. And they get it quite easy. 9, 10, 13, 15. They capture the last spot. Cards are discarded. No need to draw up any new cards. That's going to score them 11 gold, and 6 gold goes to player 2 because they did contribute with the second place. Player 1 takes the card. We complete this final card. Goblins had majority, so the player 2 player will get the second place of 4 coins. But unfortunately, no one will get to claim the runestone of that location. Okay, so let's go to final scoring and tally up the points. Okay, let's look at the final scoring for the game. Player 1, because they got the 5 runestones as opposed to player 2's 4, they get the additional $5. They collected $10, $12 during the course of the game, as opposed to player 2's $21 during the course of the game. So adding to that the end of game bonus from their enchantment cards, player 1 with their extra 5 coins from their enchantment ended up with 32 points. Player 2, with their $1 enhancement at the end of the game, ended up with 22 points. So 32 to 22, Player 1 wins the game. Okay, so just a bit of a footnote on the game. As we said during setup, the Adventurers Academy does have a B-side for a harder kind of variant of the game. Same rule applies in that if you are unsuccessful at an Explore, you would add an Adventurer to the card. Difference being, you now have one of two options. You could, at a time on your turn, remove 2 Adventurers from the card and play a red card from your hand to gain a level 1 enchantment card. So increasing the amount of enchantment cards you have in front of your play area. Or you could remove 2 Adventurers from the Adventurers Alley, pay $2 in coin and take a level 2 enchantment card. Same applies though, any Adventurers left there at the end of the game are worth 1 Dragon Rune. And that's the Adventurers Alley option. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this playthrough. If so, please like and possibly subscribe, and until next time.